Think about a time when you made a massive, life-altering decision. Maybe you chose which college to attend or decided to break up with a long-term partner. If someone asked you why you did it, you'd probably have a bulletproof list of logical reasons. You'd look deep inside your mind, review your thoughts, and confidently explain your exact motivations. But what if that confident voice inside your head is completely lying to you? Welcome to the introspection illusion. This is a psychological phenomenon where we wrongly think we have direct, perfectly clear access to the origins of our own thoughts, while simultaneously believing that everyone else's self-analysis is completely unreliable. In other words, we judge ourselves by our invisible internal motives, but we judge others strictly by their visible actions. It sounds like a philosophical riddle, but scientists have proven this illusion exists time and time again. Let's look at a famous experiment from 1977 by psychologists Richard Nisbett and Timothy Wilson. They set up a table outside a busy department store. On the table, they placed 4 identical pairs of pantyhose in a row. They asked random shoppers to examine the pairs and choose the one with the highest quality. Now remember, the pairs were absolutely identical, but human brains have a strange, unconscious quirk called the right-word bias. Because of how we scan objects, people overwhelmingly chose the pair on the far right, but when the researchers asked the shoppers why they chose that pair, nobody mentioned its position on the table. Instead, they confidently made up reasons. They claimed the elasticity was better, or the weave was much smoother. Their brains didn't know the real reason, so their introspection simply invented a logical-sounding story to fill the gap, and they believed their own made-up story completely. But it gets even wilder. Enter choice blindness. In a 2005 experiment by Johansson, researchers showed participants 2 photographs of faces. They asked the participants to point to the face they found more attractive. The researcher would then hand the chosen photo to the participant and ask them to explain their choice. But the researchers were using sleight of hand. Like a street magician, they secretly swapped the photos. They handed the participant the face they had rejected. You would think people would notice right away, but the vast majority had no idea. And worse, they instantly began explaining why they preferred this face. They would point to specific features like the person's smile or their eye color, passionately defending a choice they literally did not make firmly. Their introspection didn't tell them the truth, it just acted as a PR department, spinning a justification on the spot. This illusion is the primary driver behind what psychologist Emily Pronin calls the bias blind spot. When we look at other people, we easily spot their prejudices and flawed logic. But when we look at ourselves, we don't see any bias. Why? Because we introspect. We look inward, searching our conscious thoughts for evidence of bias. But bias operates in the unconscious. So when we don't find a file labeled malicious prejudice in our conscious brain, we conclude that we are perfectly objective. So why is it so incredibly important to understand the introspection illusion today? Because we live in a world obsessed with calling out other people's motives while aggressively defending our own. Understanding this illusion forces us to practice intellectual humility. It teaches us that the story we tell ourselves about who we are is basically a rough draft written by a very confident ghostwriter. When you realize that you are often a stranger to yourself, you suddenly have a lot more patience for the baffling decisions made by the people around you.